Gizmo, I love you. Come on, tell everybody. I love you.
Both of you in here.
I love you. Sing, Gizmo, sing. He loves you. Good
At just
boy,
4 pounds
Gizzy.
and less than half a feet tall, Gizmo is a godsend, especially if you're elderly, alone, or sick. That's because he is one of hundreds of therapy dogs that volunteer with their owners with an organization known as Share a Pet.
Each volunteer can visit at least about 30 or 40 individuals a week. So if we have 400 volunteers, that's 16,000 visits that we are providing each week, which is a lot of visits, a lot of opportunities to exchange that love.
President Dr. Bindu Mai says it was the brainchild of her husband Sachin who put this grassroots organization into motion.
Initially, it was just the two of them, just Sachin and our dog Tenzin, and they would visit as many facilities as they could because they realized there were people in facilities who weren't getting any visitors. Even if they had families here, for some reason the family members were not able to come visit with them. And so he and Tenzin, our dog, would start visiting these facilities, and he felt like all of a sudden he had all of these grandparents. And the press then got a hold of him in April 2005. They found out that he was making, I think, 6 or 7 or 8 visits a week to places all over South Florida. And they interviewed him, and they had an article in the Sun Sentinel about him. And that attracted a lot of attention, and then people wanted to join the organization. So he incorporated as a 501c3 nonprofit. And since that article came out, we've had over 1,000 people join the organization so they could start doing this with their therapy dog. And it's been very fulfilling. It's actually a win-win for everyone, not just for the volunteer who's doing something productive for the community, but also for the dog, because as you saw, they get so much attention, but also for the people we visit, and also for the families, you know, because I'm sure no one feels good about leaving their parents or their grandparents in a facility, and sometimes for their sake, for their safety or their health, you know, they are placed in these institutions. And so our volunteers and our dogs are trained to give them that love, which all of a sudden they lack, you know, which they should be getting from their family members. So we provide them with that.
Although pet therapy may not be widespread, there is research that proves it does have positive effects on patients.
Actually, there's a lot of research on pet therapy that measures the impact, the psychosocial impact, also the physiological benefits that these pet visits make on not just our elderly, but also on patients, on psychiatric patients. So there is a lot of research that shows that these visits are beneficial to the people we visit, depending on, for instance, people with cardiovascular conditions. It immediately brings their stress level down. They have better prognosis if they're a dog owner themselves. They have better prognosis if they're a dog owner, which means they walk their dog and they're interacting with the dog. There's a give and take of love. So yes, there is a lot of benefit, and scientifically it's also been shown.
Joan Partica, whose dog Bernie was Share a Pet's second volunteer dog, says the reason why she started doing this was personal.
My own mother was in a nursing home for 14 years, and I went to visit her so often with the dog to visit her that I just thought everybody brought their dogs to the nursing home. And after she passed away, they said, well, are you going to keep bringing the dog to the nursing home? And I thought, oh no, I've been here too long now, maybe another one. And I came down to Florida and met Sachin, and we were talking about setting up. He was already working with his dog at a facility, and we were talking about starting a new nursing home. I was still working and went back home, and when I came back down, we finished it up and started it. He did all the work. I only bounced an idea off of once in a while, and Bernie was the second member. He was the second member with Sachin for Share a Pet. And we went around and interviewed nursing homes and asked them if they wanted people in their facility, and it just grassroots started and became a big outfit now. It's an organization that's nationwide, but you know, when it started, there were just 4 or 5 of us, and then 10 of us, and 20 of us, and now hundreds of us. Just grew.
This is Nina. She's a French poodle, miniature, and she was born in Mexico, which is where I met her and fell in love with her, so I brought her back with me. Nina is kind of a natural for this kind of work, I think. She's very loving and caring. And so it was suggested that we might want to be involved in it. So I just pursued it, and here we are.
That was months ago, and since then, Ted and Nina have been making the rounds, doing what they can to help bring some comfort to anyone who may need it.
For those people who are either in a nursing home or have people that they know are in a hospital or a nursing home and could use a dog visiting with them, that they should reach out and try to have somebody come and visit, because there are people that are doing this, and everybody benefits from it. The dog benefits because she gets lots of love. The trainer gets an appreciation of what people are going through, and of course the patient is always the benefit of it. And I've seen some real miracles take place with a dog.
Bernie works 3 regular days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then he works in New York State. I'm the director in New York State, and we work almost every day up there somewhere. We work nursing homes, and we do a couple of camps in the summer, and we do a lot of orientations and training. And because it's so small up there, I do I do the orientations, and then I do the testing, and we do the training in the facilities and whatever. So he works almost full time up there when we're home in the summer. But down here, really 3 days a week.
Unlike people with whom our interactions may be quite complex and unpredictable, animals, on the other hand, provide a constant source of comfort and focus for attention.
He loves it. He loves it. The second, you say, you want to go to work? Whew. You want to go to work? You bet. He says, oh, I'm ready. He can't wait to go to work. Who doesn't want a job where you get there and everybody loves you? That's the best job, huh? Yeah, he really does. You pull out the vest or you just pick up the scarf and he is at the door and ready to go. He can't wait.
It may not seem like much, but being able to pet and nurture a dog for a little bit goes a long way. All of these volunteers have seen proof of it.
I was talking to somebody about that today, and last week we were at the hospital, and one of the doctors came up to me, one of the interns, I think. He came up and he sat down and he said, do you mind if I hug the dog, or I pet the dog? I said, no. He's wondering what took you so long. And he got down on the floor and he hugged the dog and he just stayed there. I thought, okay, enough already. And he stayed there for a long time, hugged the dog, and he said, I've been working for 30 hours. He said, and this is the best thing that's happened to me all day. I mean, the nurses love him, the kids love him. He's really, and he's like intuitive about who, he stands at the door, he waits to go into the room. He really sort of knows who he should go see and who's afraid of him. And I don't do anything but carry the leash around. I mean, he really does it all.
Well, we had one occasion where there was a gentleman that was totally non-communicating and could not move his arms or legs. And I just felt that Nina could benefit, so I put her in his lap, and he started moving his arm and trying to pet her. And several weeks after that time, I found that he was in rehab and was getting a lot of attention and really improving a great deal. So I think that this was kind of the trigger that got him to, rehabilitate.
I meet a lot of the volunteers and I see how wonderful they are and how, in spite of the busyness in their lives, they make time to do this. They make time to go regularly, because one thing Sachin, my husband, found was it's the regularity of the visits that really makes an impact, because our residents, our elderly that we visit, are already talking about the next visit. So we become that one constant in their life anymore. Every week we visit with them. So not only have I come across some amazing volunteers, but I've seen some amazing miracles. I don't know if you heard of our Christmas story of 2005, our Christmas miracle, where at that time, my husband and our dog had been visiting this lady. She'd been in the nursing home for 3 years, and he'd been visiting her for 2 years already. And Christmas of 2005, she said, "I'm going to steal your dog." And my husband said, "Well, you can, but you know you'll have to feed him, you'll have to take him for a walk, so why don't we start by you walking him today?" And she said, "Can I?" And she didn't know. She didn't know if she could get out of bed because she hadn't been out of bed for 3 years, because she felt that was the one thing she could choose. You know, she didn't want to be there, but she had to be there. So she chose to be as uncooperative as possible, because that she wanted to make some choice, and that was her choice. She wasn't going to get out of bed. And so from somehow miraculously, because on Christmas Day they have kind of a skeleton staff, because people want to be with their families. So someone found a double wide wheelchair for her, someone found a Hoyer lift to get her out of bed. She was a little big, and they put her in the wheelchair, and my husband wheeled her out. And that was the Christmas miracle. It's the first time in 3 years she got out of bed so she could walk our dog. And she said she felt like she was getting out of prison. You know, she hadn't felt the sun on her for that long. And to have the ability to make that impact is very humbling, you know, because you know that it's you and your dog that walks in that door and makes that difference. And that is huge. It's just, you're making a difference in someone's life, and many of our volunteers do that.
Like most people, some of these therapy dogs naturally gravitate to certain demographics and are better at helping different types of people than others.
There are some dogs that are naturally good with children. Children are generally have more energy than our elderly residents. So there are some dogs that tolerate that level of noise or just hyperactiveness or just the higher energy level. And you want the dog to be calm under those circumstances. And some dogs we see are naturally more inclined to be with children. And so in spite of all that noise and activity going on around them, they're still calm and they're still attuned to their owner. So when the owner or handler gives a command, then the dog is still amenable to listening to that command. And they don't get freaked out by all the noise from the children. There are other dogs who don't tolerate that very well. And it's not necessarily a breed as much as an individual thing in my experience. So there are some dogs that do very well with hospice patients. Some dogs that unfortunately don't want to be around the elderly. And we've noticed in my experience, maybe there have been 3 dogs that were that, in which case much as the owner wanted to volunteer with the elderly, she couldn't. But we were able to place them with children, and the dog was fine with children. So it's something you learn. So it seems to be more an individual dog, since they gravitate more towards one demographic.
He likes the nursing home setting very much. I think a lot of it has to do with the heat. He doesn't like the heat too much, so when it gets really, the sun, if he's in some place where there's sun, it just shoots right into his coat, he gets really hot. So we really try and stay in the air conditioning.
At Share a Pet, potential therapy dogs must pass a 12-point test and undergo training before they can be certified as therapy dogs.
For people with dogs, I would certainly recommend them going through some obedience training. They can either go through trainers in their area and have them trained as therapy dogs, or just go to our website and look up, there are 12 items on our test, and they can train the dogs at home. Practice makes perfect. Practice with your neighbors, your family, your friends, and get your dog ready. And if there is an outfit in your area that provides a therapy dog certification, then I would say go for it. And if it's a person without a dog that still want to be involved, but they want to tag along with the pet therapy team, then they can certainly contact the organization. We are in upstate New York, San Francisco, and South Florida, so if they're here, they can contact SharePet, and we'd be happy to set them up to go on visits with us. If they want to volunteer, they can do that. If they want to support the organization, nonprofits rely on donations to a huge degree, so they can certainly write a check and send it in the mail to SharePet or to one of the organizations that they personally know of and like and support. But I know every nonprofit would be very grateful for that donation.
Any dog or animal has the potential to be healers and therapy dogs. Some are just more natural than others.
Dogs can be trained. Basically, a dog's nature is to love. So it's really up to us to be consistent. That is absolutely key. So we have to be disciplined enough to be consistent with our dogs, which means they associate a certain command with a certain reaction we want from them. And the reason we test the dogs is when we walk into a facility, it's a strange facility. We don't control the environment. So we want to make sure that our dogs know how to respond. For instance, if one of the elderly residents spilled a bottle of pills or hormones or something, we don't want our dogs to swallow those pills. And so if we say leave it or no, you want your dog to leave that alone and not scarf it down. So that's why we want to make sure. But all dogs can be trained. It's the humans that can be difficult.
Asked if she was proud of what Bernie has been able to do, Joan says,
My children think I like him better than them, and sometimes I say I do. No, he is I've had dogs all my life, and I love them all, but I've never had one quite this special. He is a really super dog.
For Bernie, who has been doing this for quite some time, he gets a special treat for all of his hard work.
He is a McDonald's fan. His very favorite place is, do you want to go to McDonald's? Oh, yes. If you drive by McDonald's, he does this and watches till the golden arches go out, and he usually gets a McDouble after work. It's his favorite. Plain, no ketchup, no mustard, no onions, no pickle.
And if there's one thing that can be said about the people at SharePet, it is this.
The collective spirit of the organization, and by that I mean not just the founder and the staff and the board members, but also all of our volunteers. That collective spirit is one of deep love, and I have seen that. There's so much love to give that they choose this avenue to express that love. They join the organization because they want to make somebody feel good. You know, people who are in hospitals who are sick or dying, people who are in hospice, or people who are lonely and sad or in nursing homes. Our volunteers want to make these individuals feel good about themselves. So I've found that the collective spirit of our organization is one of just this deep, deep love. And it is amazing to be a part of that. And it feels nice. And the more people join with that spirit, the bigger it gets, which is really nice.
For every joy, there is the occasional sadness and heartbreak, since the people they do help are oftentimes ill or at the end of life stage. It is this part that Joan hates the most.
I do lose people that we love. Yeah, we do. We lost a little girl a couple weeks ago that was just a killer. We've known her for such a long time. Anyway, enough of that.
For these volunteers, being part of something bigger than themselves is rewarding beyond measure.
I really think, I mean, I know what I feel when I go with my husband and our dog. And it's more than joy, it's a sense of purpose. And I think deep down, I think we all want to feel that we are making a difference. So I think for those of us who want to help our community, you definitely get that feeling that yes, I am making a difference, that, and my dog is also.
Therapy work is so rewarding. I talk to people all the time. People ask me about it at the dog park. A lot of people that have joined Share Pet are people that I met when I was visiting their family or their parents or their cousin or whatever, and they say, boy, they really love it when the dog comes in. I say, do you have a dog? Maybe you'd like to get interested in it. It really is such a rewarding thing to do. I get so much more out of it as far as meeting people and seeing the happiness. It's such a simple thing to do. You know, it's an hour a week. It's nothing. I mean, it's really nothing in the scheme of things, and it is such a people tell me wonderful things about my mother said this or this one or that one. You know, I meet people afterwards and they say, oh, that's Bernie. And I think, I don't know these people. And Bernie, they'll say, oh, my mother has pictures of Bernie in her room, and we remember when Bernie used to come visit her. You know, he knows a lot of people. He has made a lot of tracks around town.
One thing that Mai has learned through her time with Share a Pet is that everyone loves to be loved.
I'll tell you what my husband has learned. He said when he first started volunteering, he was pumped up thinking, I'm going to go in and make a difference. I'm going to give them so much love that they're going to feel good about everything. And he realized that more than being starved for love, to receive love, our residents, our elderly residents, were actually starved to give love, because they're at the demographic when they should be surrounded by grandchildren, and they're, you know, where they're freely expressing this love that they have. And he realized that what our volunteers and dogs do for our residents is to give them that opportunity to express that love freely and openly, and to give all this love that they have stored up inside. So I think that has been something he's seen with his volunteering experience. And for me, my biggest lesson is I wish there was some, you know, people sweat the small stuff or get caught up in pettiness or who said what and emotions. But if we focus on how we can make someone feel better, there are so many people around us who maybe, you know, if I were to think of me, who maybe relies on me to make them feel good, or someone in this nursing home, and I walk in the door with or without my dog. I can volunteer even without my dog. Our organization is a therapy dog organization, so all of us volunteer with our dogs, but my dog and I can walk in the door and actually make someone feel good about themselves. This is the last phase of their life, you know, of our elderly residents. And if we can somehow enhance their quality of life, then I think that is a wonderful service we're offering to them. And we step outside of our life, you know, for something bigger to do for somebody else. That would be worth it.